JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Wednesday, July 22nd, 323. Really quick rant, talk about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P, I guess we're in the red. SPY just broke 748, 747.97. The last 2 hours, yes, I guess since 2 o'clock has been similar to yesterday afternoon, where we kind of been range bound right around that 748 handle on the SPY. So pretty much, if you listened to the rant yesterday and then didn't look at the markets and then came right now for the rant, the market's pretty much at the exact same spot. But names, underlying stocks have changed course. But needless to say, been talking about it. The big day is here. After the close here, we have Google, ServiceNow, Tesla, a slew of other names are going to be reporting. And now it's where do we go from here? We're going to get some color on, I mean, especially Google with their hands on so many different elements. We're going to hear about the cloud. You can hear about the TPUs, right? The much touted TPU, the tensor processing units. You'll hear about the Gemini. Everybody, all these companies have their buzzwords and stuff. It's sometimes exhausting trying to keep up with all the different aspects of their business. But it's gonna be a big one for Google, and then ServiceNow, right? And I don't know if it took a little of the anticipation away because you had a company called Pega Systems. I think that's what they're called. Pega is a ticker. I guess they do software, and they issued a guidance and lowered their, I guess their revenue. I didn't look exactly at the numbers, but that stock's tanking. Small company, $4 billion. So I guess there's some read through in some of these larger cap names. But ServiceNow is the other name I'll be watching. But all right, I don't want to get too much in that. Just really quick in the markets, tight, right? So typically when you have a tight on the Bollinger Bands are getting tight. The candles the last couple of days have been tight. Typically it precedes a large outsized move. It's like I always try and give the imagery, the tug of war, right? You got the bulls pulling on one side, the bears pulling on the other, and they've been tugging for a couple days. Well, hopefully not in the tug of war aspect, but in regards to the market, if you picture the two sides, and at some point someone wins, someone stumbles, someone trips, and then they get pulled over the line, and then that rope goes flying. So that's kind of how I look at the markets. You have supply and demand, buyers, sellers. At some point, the one of those elements win. The buyers overwhelm the sellers overwhelm the buyers, and then we have that outsized move. So not saying that's 100% certainty, but you have to think, and I'm the optimist, so I like to look at the glass half full. You can kind of make the case. I always look at the macro picture when I'm thinking of things, right? The economy is strong. There's no crazy things. So I mean, there's always crazy things going on, but geopolitical things outside the Middle East, everything is good. So to me, and we're a historically strong time frame. The July month, July is the best performing month of the year. So with all those aspects, you put time together. I'm like, okay, you can make the case, and maybe we break the highs. So I think that's probably, if you asked around, it's probably the least likely outcome that folks would say. Maybe we aren't there, but those are kind of the elements I'm looking at that I think is a possibility. But we'll find out today after the close. Take a look at the SPY 748. That's a big spot. So I mean, we could chop here for the next 2 days into the weekend. That'd be the most frustrating. But me, I'm not trying to overtrade, not trying to until I find high conviction setups that I feel comfortable getting in for a decent risk reward, where obviously you never know for certainty, so you gotta take the risk you're willing to lose to get the reward, and the reward should pay more if you're taking more risk. But all right, so that's that with the markets. Also, I mean, you take a look again today, yields are higher, so it's like those that has to change. There's not a it's not an option, right? It's, I mean, pun intended. If yields continue to go up, it's just going to lead to bad things. It's the tide going out. The water, once it's going to expose a lot of different things. So, all right, so that's that. That's overall markets. And also today, it's like a weird session, right? Small caps taking on the chin. Nasdaq red, bounced to the green, and back in the red, and the S&P. So it's been interesting. And then the names that were rallying yesterday, they were in the red. Then they bounced. The cloud names, some of these data center names, the Irons, the Decipher, and then you have a name like Palantir getting destroyed here today. So, and then Bitcoin. So some of the names that were strong yesterday, the Strategy, Circle, Coinbase, Hood. Yeah, so interesting day. What's frustrating when you trade the options, Multi-day runs usually are the best kind, right? Well, of course they're the best kind, but those typically lead to the highest percentage gains. When you can get a position that goes up, you're far out of the money the first day. It gets close to the money. Maybe it's up 100%, but then it's the next day where it's in the money and then it keeps going. Then that contract that was 25 cents, now it's in the money, it's $1, and then the next day it goes at $2, $3, $4, $5. Those are the fun days. Unfortunately, trading days or trading weeks like this, you don't get that. So you got to get the trades that pay off on a binary event, like the earnings with Super and the pre-announced guidance, like Super Micro yesterday. All right, so that's overall markets. I don't want to get too much there. I don't know. I have the Super Micro chart here. All right, that's all overall. So just quick on individual names. Just quick on here, Super Micro. You have the potential golden cross. This is probably just going to play out just because as a function of it running up here today. It's up. It was up 25% earlier. So lucky to get those calls yesterday afternoon. The plan was to lock some into the open. I did for whatever, it's a couple hundred, 500%. And then it continued to run, broke over 30, took a few more off. And then once we got to 32 and change, it gets to the point of you got to figure out what am I going to do here. So similar what I was just saying before, if tomorrow it goes from 32 to 34 to 35, then those contracts, the $30 strikes are going to be $5, $6. It goes to $40, they'll be $10. But to me, it's almost like, I was trying to run it through my head this morning too. It's like I think the more I thought about Supermicro's pre-announce, it's like it's going to have to be a show me element, right? To me, I think if this isn't a company that had these negative situations happen to them in the past, maybe the stock would have its rally today in continuation. I'm just not as confident that there's going to be continuation. And if it is, maybe it's going to be the small variety. It's only be up 20 cents tomorrow or not have a big drop. So with that being said, I'm looking for areas that I could still take advantage of upside without having all my monster call premium get destroyed. So I took the rest of the 30s off, and then I just added some spec far out of money calls. So that's kind of the game plan there. If we get the golden cross and this thing takes off, good. I'll add some more strikes. My favorite saying: you can always get back in, but sometimes they close the door and say, "Now you can't leave." Right? All right. So that's Super Micro. Um, and then other names there, like I was saying, frustrating. So this morning you had that news, or at least that Wall Street Journal article on Reddit talking about the possibility of them walking away from Google. I don't know if someone has some clear-cut insider information. I guess that's what, well, I don't think you call that. If the Wall Street Journal finds information and they don't trade it, I guess it's not insider information. But they came out with reports that, Reddit is one of the companies amongst many that might, I guess, they still have a deal with Google, but they might not renew their licensing deal with Google in regards to letting their crawlers and bots, whatever, canvas the Reddit site and pay them for their, the only human experience on the internet. But I mean, there's not many that out there, as you can say. Reddit's probably first and foremost. But anyway, stock was down. To me, I don't know. It shouldn't be down that much, but it is a stock that has 15% short interest. So these bears, once they smell blood, they go nuts. But you would think, hey, they would create opportunity. But I'll be watching. You have to think that if this report either gets rebutted by the company or there's some kind of updated licensing deal in the coming days, the stock will go bonkers the other way. So, of course, I have a bullish bias on the company. So that's how I look at it. The bear might look at the other way and say, oh, maybe they give in to Google, saying, oh, they need Google to survive. I don't know. So I guess you look at the bearish aspect as well. But that was that. And then Roblox this morning. And I didn't see anything this morning. I think Citi had adjusted their price target. One of those analysts, maybe it was Bank of America. But here it is, down to $50 just a little while ago, broke under for a minute. I thought it was going to be doing the $60 dance. So the market always likes to play some games here. So down to $50. Normally I grab some strikes. I still have those calls from the start of the week, so I'll just continue to hold those. And then once Friday rolls along, unless I see another opportunity to get in, or at least get decent strikes, or let's say that it shows signs of a monster rally or bounce, there's some news catalyst, then maybe I'll get some more strikes. For now, I'll just hold what I have until Friday. And then earnings. So with Google reporting earnings after the close, ServiceNow, some of the better ways to trade for earnings, instead of doing a binary event on Google, which will be inflated premiums, and I don't even know what the exact implied move is on Google because I wasn't planning to trade on it. I could do that right now. But Google with the L, GOOL, the implied move on Google is $9 and 91 cents. 9.91. So 9.91 gives you how much implied move is that? With the stock at 345? Is it that small? Is it is it that small? $10? Oh no, because that's the weekly strikes expiring today. So if you want to get calls into the close and not partake in the earnings, then the implied move. How is that? All right, I'm looking at wrong numbers. So just excuse me. 344, 5.78% move. So 5.8% move. That's not too bad for Google. Huh. And then you look, and the $400 calls are not bad. 30 cents. Huh. Riddle me that. Okay, well, I'm not going to sprinkle lotto dust out there on Google, but if you are, those calls don't seem too expensive in regards to uh, how I guess in regards to how I thought they would be priced. Why is this not working? All right, sorry, I'm just going on tangents here. Oh, so they report after the close. So of course you can play Google to get straight up, right? So if you want to trade earnings, I'm just trying to see. So the last 8 reports from Google, it was up 10% last quarter, down 0.53% the quarter before, up 2.5 the quarter before that, up 1%, up 1%, down 7%. So overall, those moves have not been too wild in regards to trying to make some money. So you know how it works. If you're looking to make some money on the calls or puts, you have to get the move bigger than what the implied move is. So if you think that it's going to move more than 6%, far out of the money calls might work. I'm not going to nibble, but if you were bullish. But to me, all right. So just in a nutshell, you take a look at where Google's been. I don't know why I don't have the chart here. I don't have the chart here. Okay. But yeah, all right. So so I don't have the chart here, but just other names I was looking at, I just posted in the chat room earlier, MDB, which could be a name on the cloud side of things. And between Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, you kind of get a picture for how the cloud business is. And then you have names like MDB and Snowflake that sometimes have sympathy moves based on whether those data points are strong or weak. MDB is certainly a name. And I was looking at the 335s, I think it was. I think there's seven. It was no 330, 78 by 90. Let's see what those are now. That would be a way I would look to trade, especially if you're somewhat bullish that the market is going to hold up, strong results, market rallies tomorrow. MDB could be a name that's up 10% tomorrow. The 330s or 78 by dollar and 8 cents. Another way, maybe the 340s, less expensive, 30 by 53. You do 40 cents, it runs 8-9%. You don't need to go into money. You can make a couple 100% on the call side. So that's one way I would look to trade it. And then on the flip side, you look at, Broadcom has their hands in a lot of what Google does. So that's the easiest sympathy move. And you've seen it before over the previous quarters. Google doesn't move much after earnings, but Broadcom does because Google will announce some kind of upside revision to their CapEx spend. And Google has a lot of business with Broadcom. They do their TSUs, right? The tensor processing units. So Broadcom has their hands in all of that. So any bullish commentary there, and that stock could soar. You look on both sides of the gate on Broadcom. I mean, the puts look inexpensive and the calls look inexpensive. But to me, it's like, what would really send it? So just recently they just had a partnership with Apple, or up their partnership or agreement, and Broadcom went up for a little bit, but not as much as it has done in the past on some of these deals. So I don't know if the market's saying, okay, all the positive upside is done for Broadcom for now, and it might just muddle around here. 50-day moving average sitting at $400. So I'm not saying I'm going to sit there and get puts, but that would kind of keep me away. I'm trying to think of some of the other names, but just okay. It's not what else. Broadcom sitting here at 398. Spies at 747. So I just have the rest of those SQQQ calls as a hedge. I'm just going to hold those into the close, just in case things get crazy. And then I'm looking. Do I nibble? So right now Corning's at $154. If this was 2 or 3 weeks ago and you told me Corning was $154, I'd say, get me some calls. You gotta be crazy not getting calls. And here it is. I mean, it was 162 at the open and just melted. So I don't know if this is kind of like a couple weeks of consolidation before the next leg. Is it the market digesting everything that's gone on, rebalancing positions and what have you before another sector gets on fire? I don't know. So instead of trying to figure it out and just guess by for me, normally maybe I would get some lotto calls on Corning, but I'll just wait till tomorrow. And that's that. I'm trying to think. Oh, other names: Intuit, Adobe, right? I mean, you had J.P. Morgan yesterday downgrading Adobe, and I think isn't it 220 right now? Why don't and Supermicro's head to $30. Oh, it's at 218. Adobe to 200 puts look inexpensive. So I don't know if it's the market saying there's not going to be too much of a move tonight to tomorrow, and I'm overhyping this, right? Uh, and maybe there'll be some bigger moves next week, possibly. Also, after the close today is Tesla, right? It's funny. It almost seems like there hasn't been much talk about Tesla because it's kind of been masked or hidden behind the backdrop of SpaceX. So I don't know what kind of move Tesla has in store, but that's another one of those names. So it's got a 5.95% implied move after the close. You start looking at some of these calls. Me, I always look at Tesla on the bullish sense. So I'm not someone who goes out and looks at Tesla in a negative fashion. The calls are red today. So if you got calls at the open, you're in the red, and you'd have to go up to, like, for me, the 430s. They're 56 by 57. Considering there'll be 2 days to expiration for tomorrow, that's not too bad a risk reward. All the calls are down 20% with the stock down 1%. On the flip side, the calls are up 25, 30%. The puts are up 25 to 30%. I mean, maybe dips. You start looking at 330 puts or 48, 7 by 49. That's not me trading Tesla. So if I don't like Tesla, I stay away. I typically don't get puts on it. All right. So have a great day. Good luck. If you trade the earnings, I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.